Hello, Miss Steele here. So this week we are talking about value and we're talking about form. Value and form are both two of our elements of art, and we're going to get going. So form is whenever we take something and we kind of try to make it look more 3D. We try to make it look less flat. Value is how light or how dark a color is. So what we're going to be working on is we're going to be working on these value flowers. So we're going to take a darker color and a lighter color and try to blend them in between. So here's my example that I have, but I'm going to set that aside because we're going to make one together. You want a piece of paper, colored pencils. I have a sharpener for my colored pencils, a pencil and an eraser. You want some sort of black marker. I have Sharpies for mine. And then you want some school glue. You want this over glue sticks, and I'm going to show you why while we're working. So I'm going to set all of this aside. And we're going to start by drawing a flower so we can have some stuff to add value into. So you want to try to find like the center of your paper. It doesn't have to be perfectly in the center. But first, we're going to draw the inside of our flower, and we're going to draw some diamond shapes. So I start out with a triangle, and then I add another triangle. And we're going to do that 1, 2, 3 times. So we made this kind of diamond shape almost. For the inside of our flower, we're going to add these curved lines, and we're going to add a little swirl on top. So I bring my pencil, and then I add a little swirl, and I think I'm going to add 5 like that. So now we have the start. Now we're going to start adding in the bigger petals. So what we're going to do is coming out from the sides of these diamond shapes, we're going to make these kind of slightly wavy lines coming out of each. And these are going to be our bigger petals. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go around just the outside of them. So it almost looks like the petals kind of curling in a little bit. Like that. And for one last detail in these, we're going to add some long, skinny ovals. Now, in between, we're going to add in a few more petals, and we're going to try to maybe fit in some green leaves, but I'm going to add on a few more petals. So in between each of these, I'm going to add a petal. And this flower is so big, it's almost like going off of our paper. Well, I mean, it's not almost, it is. So I have a few spaces now that I have my 3 main petals and my 3 outside petals. And I'm going to add some kind of straight, slightly curved lines. And these are going to end up being our like green sort of leaves, just to add in some detail. I could add one up here if I wanted to, but I kind of like it how it is now. So we drew our flower. Our next step is going to be grabbing a black marker and going over those pencil lines. So I'm going to go through and I'm going to outline all of my flower that I just drew. And once I'm done with this, I'm also going to go back with an eraser and try to get any of the pencil lines that are kind of hanging out. So I'm going to get this outlined, and I'm going to try to get my pencil lines erased. And then I'm going to show you our next step. Alright, so I got it all outlined. So what I would do after is I would go through, and I have some pencil lines that are sticking out from here. So that's what my eraser is for. So I'm going to go through and get all of my pencil lines erased, and then we will move on to our next step. Alright, so I got this all erased. What we're going to do now is we're going to grab our glue, which is kind of weird because we don't even have scissors, and you might be wondering what the glue's for. And I'm going to show you right now. I wanted to give this some texture since we were talking about form. So our next step is using our glue, and I opened mine up almost all the way, but not completely. And then I'm going to squeeze this lightly, and I'm going to try to go over all of my lines with this glue. So whenever it dries, all my line work will have this really nice texture for me to color on and around. So I start towards the outside of my paper before I work my way to the inside. And it's almost like I'm drawing with my glue bottle. So I'm trying to go over all the lines that I drew with my glue. And it's okay if it's not perfect. I don't expect it to be, but you can see that right now it's white where I'm putting the glue because this glue is white, but whenever it dries clear. So I'm going over all of my lines with my glue bottle. And again, all the lines don't have to be perfectly even. I trust that, you know, even if it looks like it's not perfect, whenever it dries, we can add to it. Whenever we add on our color using our colored pencils. So it's going to look a little bit crazy at this stage, and that's okay. Art does look a little bit crazy sometimes. Sometimes you got to take a break because your hands might start to get a little bit sore. But I'm going to get this all outlined with my glue, and then we'll move on to our next step. Okay, so I have this all outlined in glue, so I'm going to go find a safe place to put this, and then we'll work on it once it is dried. Alright, so I have this one, and it's all dried. You can't even really tell the glue's on there anymore. But if you scratch it, you can definitely feel it. So we are going to work on getting this colored in, and we're talking about value. So what I want you to do is I want you to pick out 3 colors that you really like. They can be any 3 colors. I think I am going to use, I like this pink, so I'm going to have this pink. It's kind of purpley mauve. And then I think I'm going to use this darker purple. So now I have 3 colors, and I want to pick out which one I think is the lightest, which I think this pink is probably the lightest color. So what I'm going to do with my lightest color, since it's my lightest value, I want to draw some attention to it. And because I added that glue, it's going to be a lot easier to color in these spaces, and it's going to have almost like some texture to it as I color it in. So I'm going to color in my stripes and then my centered diamonds with this color. And then we'll move on to our next step using the other colors that I picked up. So here comes what I think is the funnest part, because we're going to start blending some stuff together. And what we're going to do is we're going to take our lighter color and we're going to put it in the inside of our flower. And I'm going to keep coloring until about halfway onto my petal. And whenever I get to that halfway point, I'm going to press a little bit lighter, so it's a lighter value. And then as I get to the inside of my flower, I'm going to press a little bit harder so I can get that darker value. And then towards the middle of my flower, I'm going to press lighter. And then on the inside of my flower, I'm going to press harder. And that's going to help us make this look like it has more form, which we're trying for, and also, ooh, my camera's shaking because I'm coloring so hard. And it's also going to help us with blending it in with the next color. So I'm going to make sure the inside of my flower is a little bit darker. And then using this lighter color as well, I'm going to lightly color in the edges of my petals. Those edges that we drew earlier, I'm going to lightly color those in using the same color as well. And I'm going to color in all of them besides our leaves this way. So I'm going to go in even to these side ones, and I'm going to fill them in about halfway, and then I'm going to press lighter whenever I get to the halfway point. And then whenever I'm towards the middle of my flower, the center of my flower, I'm going to press a lot harder so it can be a little bit darker of a value, kind of going out into that lighter value. So I'm going to get these petals colored in with just this color, and then we'll move on to our next step, pressing harder for the middle of the flower, and then lighter and lighter until I get about halfway through my flower. Alright, so I have the inside of my flower colored in. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to do the same thing, but opposite. Instead of pressing harder in the center and lighter whenever I get halfway through, I am going to press harder on the end of it, and then as I work my way into the next color, I am going to slowly start getting lighter and lighter. So it's like I'm doing the same thing but going the other way. So I'm going to press harder, and then as I get into my next color that I put down first, I'm going to start pressing lighter and lighter and having that value get lighter and lighter. So I'm going to press lighter and lighter until I get it kind of blended into that next color. Like that. And then I can go back, and if I feel like I need to like layer some more on to kind of blend it in a little bit more, that's definitely an option. So you can add some more if you feel like it needs some more. Like that. And that's how we're going to get those two different values in our flowers, which look really, really nice. So I'm going to do it for, oh look, I forgot to color this one in. I'll have to come back and do that one. But I'm going to show you on this one because we're not going to touch these side pieces that we drew, but we are going to start working on the inside. Slowly going into this other color, pressing lighter and lighter. And then towards the bottom here, whenever we're on the side of our paper, I'm going to press harder. And then have it slowly get lighter and lighter as we go into the other color. Got something on the back of my paper. Like that. So again, I'm pressing harder. And then as I get up to that lighter color that I added in first, I'm slowly pressing lighter and lighter with my pencil. Sometimes if you hold closer to the tip of your colored pencil, it's easier to get those super dark colors because you're applying more pressure. And then if you hold it farther back, it's harder to apply a lot of pressure, so sometimes it's easier to get the lighter values doing it that way, holding your pencil closer to the lead or farther back. Is a really easy way to kind of practice, you know, how hard or how light you're pressing. So I'm going to add this purple onto the ends of all of these, and then our last thing is just going to be picking out a green to color in our leaves and then coloring in the background. Alright, so I have this all colored in, so my last step is going to be grabbing a green to color in my leaves that I have coming off the side of my flower. And then picking out a background color. And I think I'm going to do yellow for my background color. So I'm going to get the last little bit colored in, and then we will be finished. Alright, and just like that, we are finished. This is the one I started out with at the start. And this is the one I just made during this video. So I hope you have fun making this, and I can't wait to see how your projects come out, and I will see you all next time. Have a wonderful rest of your morning, your evening, or afternoon whenever you're watching this. Bye!